Part 74. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 755. After lunch, Yan Qingcheng thanked Qin Yanan for his warm hospitality and went to Beilong Center to discuss with Zhongqing the arrangements for making up classes before the start of school. Lu Chang'an gave lessons to Zhu Huntang, which did not directly help Zhu Huntang's academic performance. Yan Qingcheng still needed tutoring related to schoolwork. When an average person is full, the supply of blood to the stomach increases, which will cause drowsiness. Since Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong eat much more than ordinary people, all the blood in the body is concentrated in the stomach to help digestion, so that the brain is temporarily unable to. They seem to have low intelligence and look squinting, so Qin Yanan arranged for them to take a nap in the guest room. Lu Chang'an didn't have any plans for the afternoon, and he wouldn't squeeze into the same bed with Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong, let alone sleep on Qin Yanan's bed. He turned on the TV and watched all kinds of news and all kinds of things in the world. Nowadays, there are far fewer people watching TV than watching online videos, let alone watching news programs. Most people get information about emergencies from various smart device apps. I scanned a few foreign TV stations at random and found that the biggest gap between our country and foreign countries is the one that is most difficult to reach, and even has no confidence to surpass, that is, journalists, media and football. It is also powerful to make the Chinese people who dare to ask the sun and moon to change the sky feel powerless and lose confidence. Interesting. Lu Chang'an found a natural animal program and watched it with great interest. This was a special ecological circle formed after the meteorite impact crater and underground cave in the primeval forest were connected. The ecological environment in the primeval forest is already very rich and colorful. After the outer layer of the meteorite is burned out, the ice core lowers the temperature of the inner circle, and some extraterrestrial materials are well preserved. The animals and plants here therefore show a state that is completely different from that of life on Earth, which has attracted the attention of many biologists, geographers, astronomers, and experts in many fields of natural science. Some people have even proposed establishing an alien biosphere here. Watching the program, Lu Chang'an gradually recovered some memories of this crater. He seemed to have been to this place and stayed for a long time. In fact, they are not alien creatures, they are just similar to the effects of nuclear radiation on animals and plants. The most impressive thing is that among the special creatures formed in the complex environment of craters and primeval forests, the relatively simple and primitive ones live on the periphery of the ecosystem, while the truly highly intelligent and powerful species are hidden in underground caves. That's it, just average fun, not as interesting as birds on fire. Lu Chang'an thought of the howling last night. If Shang Guandandan was really a bird that could catch fire all over his body, he would have been sensitive to the howling when he was awake. Just as she was about to chat with Qin Yanan again, she walked out of the guest room, gently closed the door, and then walked to Lu Chang'an, holding her lower back with one hand. Generally, pregnant women often walk like this because of their big belly. Qin Yanan also walks like this, but it is more like showing off her exquisite figure. What are you so proud of? Lu Chang'an saw Qin Yanan's expression as if his life was complete, and he was a little arrogant, as if he had picked up a stick and put it on his shoulders, and felt like Zhou Dongdong from Sun Wukong. Qin Yanan pulled out a jade pendant from the depths of his collar. The lanyard is a bit too long, and the jade pendant can't even be seen through the low-cut v-neck she's wearing. It seems to be buried very deep. The Queen's seal, Lu Chang'an recognized it at a glance. Qin Yanan was wearing a jade guanyin or a Buddha statue around her neck. Now it has been replaced by the Queen's seal. The shape of the seal is only suitable for wealthy girls to use as pendants. A figure like Qin Yanan who can bury the seal will inevitably be uncomfortable because of the square edges and corners. Comfortable. Congratulations, you got the answer right, no prizes. Qin Yanan was even more proud, while thinking about what the ancient queen's tone, eyebrows, expressions, and body movements should be like when meeting the emperor. I didn't think of it at the moment, so I performed the Wanfu ritual. Women in costume dramas do this regardless of their dynasty status. Lu Chang'an turned a blind eye to her blessing, and of course he could not cooperate with her in returning the gift. He stretched out his hand and said, "Show me." Qin Yinan hesitated for a moment, feeling that it was unlikely that Lu Chang'an would take her treasure and give it to An Nuan, so she felt relieved, took it off her neck and gave it to Lu Chang'an. The lanyard was very long and easy to take off. Qin Yinan grabbed her long hair and held it in front of her chest. Watching him pinch the seal, a light blush appeared on her cheeks. Lu Chang'an pinched the seal, the jade color was transparent, the tentacles were soft, with a warm touch, like a woman's skin. When he first entered the Viang Palace, he did not choose the queen, and naturally he had not seen the queen seal of the Han dynasty. The first time I held it in my hand to appreciate and play with the Han dynasty queen seal was the one that Shang Guandandan gave to Zhou Shuling last time. When I saw this one this time, it was exactly the same as the last one, except that the color of the jade was slightly different, so I could tell that it was not the same one. Lu Chang'an used to be a grave digger, and he had an average ability to identify jade objects that were old. However, for the things Shang Guandandan took out, the usual identification methods were basically ineffective. He looked at it and gave it back to Qin Yinan. I originally thought that telling Qin Yinan about the existence of the queen seal would make things difficult for Shang Guandandan. After all, she had already given one to Zhou Shuling and logically could not get the second one. But she just took out the second one. Could this queen seal still be sent in batches? It's not a product that can be used to make certificates and engrave seals on the streets. Lu Chang'an thought about it and suddenly felt that something was wrong. With Shang Guandandan's character, it was very likely that what Zhou Shuling and Qin Yinan got were replicas, or spare parts, and the most authentic one might still be in her hands. It was just a suspicion, and Lu Chang'an had no evidence, so it was naturally impossible for him to say it to attack Qin Yinan. Seeing that she was so happy, why would she ruin other people's interest? He has always been a kind-hearted and gentle man. I just chatted with Dandan about the Empress of the Han dynasty, and Dandan suddenly came to her senses and gave it to me, which shows that she had wanted to give it to me for a long time. Qin Yinan hung it back around his neck, poked the seal with his finger and hid it. Lu Chang'an discovered that these women had this habit of hiding things. 10 or 20 years ago, when some women went to high-end shopping malls, they would take out their credit cards from here. Women who were old or had insufficient capital would take them out of their stockings. After all, there were a lot of thieves at that time, and it was often unsafe to carry a wallet. Keeping it close made women more alert and less likely for thieves to succeed. Congratulations, you can find an emperor to marry in the next step. Lu Chang'an congratulated sincerely. And you said it was all you? Qin Yinan tilted her head and frowned. There is no one I can go on a blind date with this year. What does this have to do with me? It's going to rain and the girl is getting married. Lu Chang'an smiled happily. Now that the news about Ma Weiming's beating has spread, many people think that I am a famous flower with a master. Qin Yinan was slightly shy. Actually, my famous flower is about to bear fruit. I'll check it for you again. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and decided to check her again to determine the changes in the development status of the gestational sac between the last check and this check. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 756. Qin Yinan was a little shy. She brushed the hair from her cheek with her fingers. There was a simple diamond earring on her delicate earlobe, which was shining brightly. Then I'll go get ready. Qin Yinan recalled that when he checked her last time, even though she didn't have much intimate contact, she still felt a little hot. After all, she was only a 26-year-old young woman, and she didn't know many things. Experienced. Being nervous and shy during a pregnancy test before marriage is a normal reaction, not because of other thoughts. What should I prepare? Lu Chang'an asked casually. She only had to lie down, and there were not many precautions like a normal hospital examination. I need to take a shower and change clothes. Qin Yan'an pulled up the short skirt that shrank to the base of her legs. She originally thought it was quite sexy, but now she felt it was too short. After all, she was going to lie down, so it didn't matter if her skirt was shorter when she was standing. If she really exposed herself, it would be an accident. Could it be that he was looking at her on purpose? It's different when you're lying down in a short skirt. You can't move your legs casually. You have to keep holding onto the hem of the skirt that can shrink at any time. It's inevitable that people will think you're trying to resist someone, but you're still welcoming them. How bad is that? No need. Lu Chang'an shook his head. By the time she finished taking a shower and changing clothes, she didn't know what happened. When Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong get up, it will be even more inconvenient. Zhou Dongdong has nothing to do with it. Shang Guandandan must be very interested and want to watch or participate. Okay then. Qin Yan'an walked into the bedroom. Lu Chang'an originally thought that it would be fine in the living room, but after taking a look at the guest room, he stayed safe and did not say anything, and followed Qin Yan'an. Qin Yan'an watched Lu Chang'an lock the door, pull up his skirt and sit on the bedside, and said slightly embarrassed, "Are you still lying down? You can sit down, too." "Then I'd better lie down." Qin Yan'an kicked off her shoes, put her legs together, moved back, raised her calves and straightened them, and then her body fell naturally. When ordinary people see Qin Yan'an like this, they will naturally drool. Lu Chang'an didn't drool. He just spit a mouthful of saliva into the palms of his hands, and then rubbed his palms evenly to maintain the media activity on the surface of the skin. Qin Yan'an still found it difficult to accept Lu Chang'an's preparation steps, just like the old farmers who worked in the fields in earlier years. Qin Yan'an had watched some rural life documentaries. The old farmers went to the fields and dug with their hoes. After a long time, the palms of their hands became so dry that they hurt. She spit in the palms of her hands and then held the handle of the hoe. It felt much more comfortable when she exerted all her strength. Do you dislike it? This is ambergris jade liquid. Not to mention that my mouthful is crystal clear, fragrant, like fairy wine. Even if it is a mouthful of foamy phlegm, if it is spit on the ground, there are still many people who are willing to lick it clean. Lu Chang'an could see it. Qin Yan'an hesitated to speak. Qin Yan'an couldn't help laughing. She quickly pressed her belly with one hand and pulled the hem of her skirt with the other. The joke he told was too disgusting. Forget about phlegm, the phlegm is still thick and blistering. Qin Yan'an quickly got up and ran to the bathroom, but she just retched. When she came out, she looked at Lu Chang'an angrily. Pregnant women are like this. They often vomit for various reasons. Don't disgust me. Lu Chang'an nodded and did not say that it was impossible for her to have pregnancy reactions in her current state. It would be useless to talk about it, she would never change her mind about a thing, so it was meaningless to talk about it over and over again. Just like Shang Guandandan, Lu Chang'an is now completely immune to her awl. Qin Yan'an lay down again, and Lu Chang'an reached in from her waist and pressed her lower abdomen. She was wearing this backless short skirt, which was why Lu Chang'an felt that there was no need to change clothes. It was very convenient. After a brief inspection, Lu Chang'an frowned slightly. "Is there any problem?" Qin Yan'an gasped softly, stroking her abdomen, curling her legs back together, and no longer holding the hem of her skirt reservedly. "No problem." Qin Yan'an just breathed a sigh of relief when she turned around and found that he was still frowning slightly and looking at her with a strange look. "What's the problem?" Qin Yan'an didn't believe what he just said. She had never seen him look at her with such a strange look. There was still a hint of hesitation in his eyes, as if he wasn't very sure of his own judgment. In other words, I don't really believe that she will be in a certain state. The gestational sac has grown and looks like a child, like a small baby, with clearly identifiable facial features. Lu Chang'an hesitated and said. Qin Yinan was surprised and happy. She couldn't help but sit up. She looked down at her belly in disbelief and said nervously, then, what should I do? Actually, I'm not ready yet. Yagong loves dragons is a very common mentality. Qin Yinan quickly accepted the reality after learning that there was a gestational sac in her belly. The main reason was that she knew that this thing would not be born for a while, 10 or 8 years. Long-term worries always make it easy to relax. She has enough time to slowly adjust her mentality. As long as she thinks that there is still a long time, she often feels no pressure at all. Most people are like this, and Qin Yinan is no exception. She was even in the mood to experience the life of an expectant mother, and used it to act coquettishly to Lu Chang'an. Now I heard from Lu Chang'an that he had turned into a child, which meant that the buffer time he originally thought was greatly shortened. Does she have to think about the problem at hand like a real single mother? Of course she welcomed the arrival of this child, but she was really not mentally prepared. How should she explain it to her relatives and friends? Is she going to put down her current job and take pregnancy leave? Will my brother play the role of a good husband? What should I do if someone asks me who my child's father is? For a moment, Qin Yinan was a little uneasy, and quickly grabbed Lu Chang'an's hand tightly, clasped his fingers into his arms and pressed it on his chest, looking at him with trembling eyes. Didn't you buy the stroller? Lu Chang'an laughed and suggested, next, let's buy some milk powder, diapers and other baby products. I mean, how long will it take to give birth? Qin Yinan couldn't laugh. Is she really about to become a mother? She had a vague feeling that her girlhood had just ended, that she had not truly fallen in love, and that she had not yet enjoyed the most beautiful period of youth for a girl. Why did she just skip the youth years that women look forward to the most and become a mother-in-law who breastfeeds children? That's not the point. The point is that when I saw the child, he didn't look like me, but looked like Ma Weiming. Lu Chang'an looked at her strangely. Tell me, did you do it behind my back? Qin Yinan was stunned for a moment, then saw the smile hidden behind his strange eyes, and immediately understood, and threw away his palm in anger. Do you have a brother who is as bastard as you? What nonsense are you talking about? Today. Raise the baby with peace of mind. No matter whose child it is, my brother will treat her well in the future. Lu Chang'an laughed, patted her face and prepared to stand up. It's just a gestational sac, but I already have a preliminary idea. Deliver nourishment to her. Lu Chang'an is indeed considering this matter seriously now. Ever since he suspected that Zhu Huntang was malnourished, Lu Chang'an decided that he could no longer let his second child suffer from malnutrition. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 757. At this time, Yan Qingcheng had arrived at Building 1 of Beilong Center and met Zhongqing. Zhongqing gave Yan Qingcheng a not very detailed itinerary, which marked the time when Zhu Huntang could attend classes, and asked Yan Qingcheng to arrange classes for Zhu Huntang based on her own plan. Zhongqing told Yan Qingcheng that Zhu Huntang was studying in the study, which surprised Yan Qingcheng. In fact, when Zhongqing came over at noon, he was also very surprised to hear the servant report that Zhu Huntang had tried to recite poetry in the morning. There is no doubt that this is the improvement after Lu Chang'an's education. Zhongqing looked at Yan Qingcheng's expression and did not chat with Yan Qingcheng about his admiration for Lu Chang'an. He ordered the servant to prepare tea and send it to the study later. Yan Qingcheng looked at Zhongqing's back as he walked into the elevator. He turned his mind away from Zhu Huntang's accident of taking the initiative to study. He was a little envious of a woman like Zhongqing. For the little girls on campus, Zonking's professional temperament is very attractive. They have no chance to become a young lady like Zhu Huntang. It is actually very good to have a job like Zhongqing who can accompany the young lady. Yan Qingcheng pressed her waist with her backhand. She didn't know if she would be able to hold up a hip-covering skirt in such professional attire in the future, or if she would be as smart and experienced as Zhongqing but not lacking in elegance. When walking to the study, Zhongqing remembered the usual chats with Zhu Huntang. Zhu Huntang would curse Lu Chang'an and Zhongqing for colluding. From her words, Yan Qingchen knew that Zhongqing treated Lu Chang'an very differently. For example, if Lu Chang'an comes to class today, Zhongqing will definitely follow Lu Chang'an as if he is also her boss. Zhongqing would not just order the servants to bring tea at will, but would greet him personally, very carefully and considerately, as if he was afraid that others would not take good care of him. This kind of difference in treatment is normal. If you want others to value you, you must first have such capital yourself, instead of blindly asking others to treat you the same. Yan Qingcheng attaches great importance to her current job. This is also an opportunity. Being able to meet a young lady like Zhu Huntang may be of great help to her life. She would not deliberately work hard to improve her communication quality, but why would she act pretentious and aloof when given the opportunity? Sunangziu, who was also the eldest daughter of a wealthy family, extended an olive branch to Yan Qingcheng, but Yan Qingcheng refused directly, but it was because Yan Qingcheng vaguely felt that Sunangziu was very dangerous, and one had to be cautious when making friends with someone like Sunangziu, let alone being a friend. She worked. Zhu Huntang, on the other hand, is much more interesting. After getting to know her, I feel that in addition to her logical thinking, her words and deeds often make people laugh, and she has a very good nature. This is probably why Lu Chang'an plays well with Zhu Huntang. If she is someone with an impure heart, I'm afraid Lu Chang'an will not become friends with her. Turn off the cock. Hearing the sound of the study door being pushed open, Zhu Huntang recited a sentence casually, then turned around and saw Yan Qingcheng, and let out a long breath with some displeasure. The arrival of Yan Qingcheng means that the makeup classes during the winter vacation have officially begun. Of course, Lu Chang'an's class is not a formal makeup lesson, because Zhu Huntang likes to play with Lu Chang'an, and although Lu Chang'an, a bad old man, also likes to torture fairies, there is fun in it that Zhu Huntang can feel. What's more, Lu Chang'an is not completely unreasonable. She was able to conquer him with her little talk and forced him to admit her various theories, which also gave Zhu Huntang a sense of accomplishment. Where is Yan Qingcheng? She didn't reason with Zhu Huntang at all. Whenever Zhu Huntang racked his brains and came up with many reasons, Yan Qingcheng didn't object. He just nodded gently and continued teaching or assigning homework. His attitude was like that of an ant in a kindergarten teaching children. Similar. What's more, the content Yan Qingcheng taught was completely boring class content, and Zhu Huntang was not allowed to do whatever he wanted. He had to follow the textbook and standard answers. I have to study Guanju today and won't have class, Zhu Huntang said quickly. Then what results have you obtained from your research? Yan Qingcheng asked with interest. This scratched Zhu Huntang's heart. She originally planned to have a good talk with Lu Chang'an the next time he came to class. Although Yan Qingcheng's expression at this time was like a kindergarten ant asking the children curiously, "You are so awesome. Can you tell Auntie how you did it?" Lu Chang'an said that literary works need to be experienced by oneself. He asked me to recite this poem, so that I could read more and develop my own understanding. His traditional and ancient teaching method does have a certain effect. Zhu Huntang first affirmed that Lu Chang'an, as a teacher, had some credit for Zhu Huntang's learning progress. Of course, the main reason is that Zhu Huntang himself is astute and eager to learn. Otherwise, if he were a fool, he would not have his own understanding no matter how many times he read it. He would just memorize the translation of ancient poems. What's the effect? Yan Qingcheng asked cooperatively. Lu Chang'an said that the invention of writing played a great role in the progress of human civilization, but literature did not. Literary works are just for entertainment and are not very important. Zhu Huntang nodded and agreed with Lu Chang'an's point of view. This Guanju is in this way, no matter how classical and elegant it pretends to be, it is actually the same routine as what trash screenwriters and novel authors are writing now. Ah, Yan Qingcheng opened her mouth slightly, feeling that Zhu Huntang was about to make remarks that impacted Yan Qingcheng's inherent cognition again. Guanju is an ancient version of a bloody romance drama. It was just born early, and current TV dramas are still treating others as a cold meal from thousands of years ago. Seeing Yan Qingcheng's expression, Zhu Huntang had an idea. With a sense of accomplishment, he said, "Think about it, Guanju mentions, can you recite it? Do you want me to read it to you?" "No need. I can recite it," Yan Qingcheng said quickly. This seemed to be a classic that elementary school students could recite and be required to recite. Zhu Huntang nodded. Fortunately, Yan Qingcheng also had some knowledge of classical literature and was able to communicate with Zhu Huntang to a certain extent. Otherwise, if Yan Qingcheng didn't understand this at all, it would be meaningless to show off Zhu Huntang's literary opinions. "I used to know someone. Her family used to be quite wealthy, but then she went bankrupt. Once I saw her looking at pianos in a piano store, but she didn't want to buy them. After asking, I found out that she was really good at pianos. I'm so poor that I can't even afford a $4 million piano." Zhu Huntang sighed with sadness. Fortunately, he wasn't so poor, so the problem wasn't big. 4 million, Yan Qingcheng was stunned. "What kind of piano is this? Is it made of gold?" Yan Qingcheng knows that pianos are expensive, but this kind of thing is not a necessity of life. Yan Qingcheng has no interest in developing a career in music, so naturally she has not understood the price of this thing, but it is too expensive. "It's Taiwan dollars," Zhu Huntang laughed and quickly explained that it was not as expensive as she thought. "Is there a big difference? If it's NT dollar 4 million, it's probably around 1 million RMB. Isn't that still a sky-high price?" It turns out that in Zhu Huntang's eyes, those who cannot afford $1 million piano are considered poor. Did you realize the point? Learning music requires a lot of money. Even if the poor learn music, they can't afford expensive instruments. But in Guanju, when this man pursues a girl, he is a friend of the harp and the music of bells and drums. In other words, he studies music." Zhu Huntang said coquettishly. Others must not have paid attention to this. "Is this what you researched?" Yan Qingcheng asked tentatively. "Of course it's more than that." Zhu Huntang noticed that Yan Qingcheng didn't react much, so he quickly continued. She was originally going to stop and didn't want to go too deep. "When I thought about this, I wondered if the cost of learning music in ancient times was relatively high. Low. So I checked online and found out that in ancient times, musical instruments such as harps, bells, and drums were instruments that only the upper class and the aristocracy had access to. Ordinary working people just sang and banged with a basin. Especially this clock, it's amazing. He probably invited this girl to listen to the chimes, just like the ones I heard in the Hua Museum. Think about it, if there were chimes in ancient homes, what would they be? What kind of family?" When I was searching for translations online, I saw some poetry appreciation, and said that these were poems written by working people in ancient times, which is pure fart. Working people in ancient times would carry their beautiful daughters-in-law home to play with them. Where did that happen? Get harps, bells and drums. Yan Qingcheng looked at Zhu Huntang in surprise. It seemed that he had not noticed these things that Zhu Huntang discovered, let alone thought deeply about them. He usually just recited and understood the basic meanings and made sure not to make any mistakes in the exam. In short, this is the same plot routine as the overbearing Cinderellas in current idol dramas. In the one I watched recently, the male protagonist invited a top orchestra to perform for the heroine. This is similar to the one in Gwonju where the male protagonist invited a top orchestra to perform for the female protagonist. What's the difference between people listening to chime bells and playing music? Hey, people used this routine to write poems thousands of years ago, and today's screenwriters can't escape the routine of Gwonju. They are really despicable and incompetent. Zhu Huntang saw Yanqing Orange's expression was very satisfied. It seemed that there was nothing wrong with the bad old man's teaching methods. Zhu Huntang thought for a while. She told Lu Chang'an a lot of nonsense last time. An ordinary teacher would probably not accept it at all and would have to change her ideas. But Lu Chang'an nothing like this. It was precisely because Lu Chang'an allowed her to develop that Zhu Huntang could understand more deeply on her own, without any restrictions on her thinking, and simply restrained Yan Qingcheng. Grandpa is great, and so is the little fairy. Zhu Huntang feels that he is almost far away from being a literary master. From now on, please call me Master Zhu. Zhu Huntang said proudly to Yan Qingcheng. Master Bamboo? Do you want to call you Wuzhu? Yan Qingcheng was speechless. He had just read one piece of Gwonju and felt that he was a master. Zhu Huntang was the only one who could be so confident. Because of this kind of self-confidence, Yan Qingcheng suddenly thought of Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an and Zhu Huntang were also very similar in that they were good at rambling and talking nonsense. That time I went to the agriculture and forestry base of the Department of Biology, Lu Chang'an also fooled others into saying that he was a prolactinologist, and bluffed others into a state of shock. Just like Yan Qingcheng was bluffed by Zhu Huntang now, and she almost thought that what she had read before was a fake Gwonju. Gwonju, the story of a top second-generation rich man who secretly watched a girl take a bath every day. In the end, he was not held accountable because of the protection of his aristocratic status. He also used idle drama routines to invite the girl to see the life of the upper class, and finally won the beauty back. I recommend the book The Crazy Doctor, written by an old driver for his whole life. Introduction: a betrayal caused him to lose everything. Starting from scratch, he decided to perform Shendan Jingmojo. In life, sometimes it depends on skill, sometimes it depends on luck, and sometimes it depends on acting skills. Huarufeng quietly turned around and transformed into a gorgeous person. He simply took everything back and easily reached new heights. Many readers don't know the meaning of the owl in the previous chapter. The owl is an owl, and it gradually became an unfilial bird during the Western Han Dynasty. When Shang Guandandan and Lu Chang'an went to the supermarket for the first time, they planned to buy an owl. Lu Chang'an was kinder to his mother. She didn't buy the owl, but she bought a thermos pot and gave the thermos the meaning of the owl. Every time she was bullied by Lu Chang'an, she would touch the thermos pot to remind Lu Chang'an not to do it. Unfilial bird. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 758. Yan Qingcheng and Zhu Huntang chatted for a while, and then Bai Hui came over to play with Zhu Huntang. Zhongqing stayed at Bai Hui's house last night and went out together today. Zhongqing came directly to Bailong Center in the afternoon. Bai Hui went home for lunch, put on makeup and changed clothes before coming over. She is going to be a guest tonight. As a square dance coach, when you are ready to show off your skills, you must perform well. Hi, long time no see. Bai Hui greeted Yan Qingcheng. Although they had not played together in private, because of Zhu Huntang, a common friend, and Bai Hui also accompanied Zhu Huntang to class, everyone also considered acquaintance. Did you have a good winter vacation? Yan Qingcheng smiled slightly. Her impression of Bai Hui was actually average, but as long as the girls didn't get into trouble with each other in person, they would all be considered friends. Of course, greetings are required. It's a bit boring. I'm looking forward to the start of school. Bai Hui looked at Yan Qingcheng. After missing him during the winter vacation, Yan Qingcheng's skin seemed to have turned a little whiter. He was not sure because he was not familiar with her after all. What is certain is that Yan Qingcheng took off her coat and her figure looked a little plumper. Maybe it was because she found a boyfriend during the winter vacation. Bai Hui thought about some boring gossip. Bai Hui doesn't have a boyfriend, and she is much plumper than Yan Qingcheng. When she has a boyfriend, she won't become plump, because Bai Hui is a girl who keeps herself clean and will not let others touch her casually before she gets married. Aren't you thinking about that when school starts? Haha, don't tickle me. Zhu Huntang was just about to say that Bai Hui couldn't wait to continue her campus life with Lu Chang'an, when Bai Hui poked her in the chest several times. When Yan Qingcheng discovered that Bai Fen was tickling Zhu Huntang, she glanced at Yan Qingcheng secretly, as if she was worried that Yan Qingcheng would find out or gossip about something. In fact, Yan Qingcheng could also feel that Bai Hui seemed to have a vague hostility towards her. Otherwise, if girls had common friends, it would be easy to distance themselves. Frankly speaking, Yan Qingcheng sometimes feels that Bai Hui is a bit bitch. Even though she knows that Lu Chang'an has a girlfriend, she still often gets close to Lu Chang'an intentionally or unintentionally. Bai Hui and Lu Chang'an's girlfriend is also a high school classmate. Thinking about it, she feels sorry for that one. The real girlfriend feels uncomfortable. She must have been being treated by Anis for several years, right? There will be no class today, you can just play. Yan Qingcheng did not prepare for class today, not to mention that Zhu Huntang was still busy making up Guanju. Yan Qingcheng was going to ask Lu Chang'an to teach Zhu Huntang. There is no reference experience to tell her. Okay, okay, Zhu Huntang said hurriedly. He didn't hate Yan Qingcheng, but Yan Qingcheng was a tutor and naturally Zhu Huntang's enemy. Zhu Huntang wanted her to leave quickly. Bai Hui is different. Bai Hui and Zhu Huntang are both fairies. When the two of them get together, they play everything but never do anything related to study. Yan Qingcheng smiled at Bai Hui and said goodbye before walking out. Yeah, there's no need to make up lessons today. Zhu Huntang took Bai Hui's hand and walked out of the study. Of course, he didn't memorize Guanju either. She already has such an in-depth understanding of Guanju, and she must have made some achievements among relevant domestic researchers. Next time Lu Chang'an asks her to memorize it, as long as she puts out her latest research, she will definitely be calm. She stayed with Lu Chang'an and made him look at her with admiration again. I think Yan Qingcheng has some affection for Lu Chang'an. Facing the dog-headed military advisor who once persuaded him to seduce Lu Chang'an with a bear, Bai Hui had nothing to hide. He glanced back at the closed elevator door, still keeping his head down. The voice said to Zhu Huntang. You just know, Zhu Huntang is so smart, how could he not notice it? I have told you a long time ago, it is better to strike first, and it is better to be the mistress, the third and the fourth, otherwise the 7 and 8 will not get their turn. You. Bai Hui held up the hem of her skirt and twisted her body, feeling a little glum. Zhu Huntang couldn't answer Zhu Huntang's words, so she snorted, Lu Chang'an and I are just friends. I've noticed that Yan Qingcheng likes to interact with Lu Chang'an intentionally or unintentionally. Related things and people are just hanging around. You are the same. Zhu Huntang chuckled. The old man was so popular. We are friends. By the way, he asked me to teach the square dance team in their community to dance at night. Bai Hui said something happy, pulling the hem of her skirt to flap like butterfly wings. I want to go too, Zhu Huntang said positively. Don't you think it's strange? Why would a normal person ask a beautiful girl to teach square dancing to grandparents? Bai Hui asked. What's so strange about this? Contrast is what makes it interesting and eye-catching, Zhu Huntang said naturally, and suddenly an idea came to him. I still want to participate. You said that if I buy their community, then their community's square dance team. This is my team. Does Lu Chang'an count as my subordinate? What's the point of this? Bai Hui waved his hand quickly. Why would he become your subordinate? At most, you will become the boss of a group of old men and old ladies. If Lu Chang'an quits the team, he will no longer be your subordinate. Most likely, Zhu Huntang was a little depressed. Although he no longer had any hope of conquering Lu Chang'an, he still wanted to give it a try if he had the chance. I'll show you something fun. Zhu Huntang's attention quickly shifted. He pulled Bai Hui downstairs, looked around, and then stretched out his fingers to open a closed black door. This kind of black door makes Bai Hui a little scared, because it looks like one of those emergency escape doors in movies. Behind the door are often zombies, genetically mutated monsters, and the like. In fact, there is just a clean and tidy place behind the door, decorated like a hospital clinic. Are you wearing doctor and nurse clothes to take selfies today? Bai Hui thought she understood. Zhu Huntang likes to arrange various scenes for taking pictures. The two of them have played many times with various role-playing combinations. I took in the scene and took a lot of beautiful photos. Bai Hui also used some of Zhu Huntang's selfie scenes to shoot a house dance video. Yes, take off your skirt first, Zhu Huntang giggled. What on earth are you doing? Bai Hui became suspicious, because she looked carefully and found that the room was too professionally decorated, exactly like a real hospital treatment room. Especially those instruments, which are not props made to look like shells at all, but real medical instruments. To tell you the truth, this is a top-notch instrument that I obtained from a high-end laboratory using the authority of the heir of the Zhu family. It is used to check whether there is a baby in the belly. The first time Zhu Huntang heard Qinyan admit that she had a baby in her belly, she was very worried that she would be infected by Lu Chang'an's special aura and become pregnant. She also searched for questions such as, will a fairy still be a fairy after giving birth to a baby? This shows that she is really worried. At that time, she decided to get such a machine back to check the health of girls who had frequent contact with Lu Chang'an, so that they would not know about the baby Lu Chang'an. Bai Hui is the best test subject. She is innocent and lively, and deeply succumbed to the charm of the bad old man. She can't extricate herself. She fools around, maybe blushing and looking forward to letting Zhu Huntang help test. Do you suspect that you have a baby? Bai Hui was surprised. If Zhu Huntang really has a baby, her baby shouldn't be Lu Chang'an's. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 759. Zhu Huntang nodded seriously. She had indeed had such suspicions, so there was nothing to deny. Even now, she still had about 1 in a million year suspicions that had not been completely dispelled. Only after a thorough physical examination could she be sure. Today's test is very necessary, not only to test Bai Hui, but also to test yourself. Of course, Bai Hui will be the first to go into battle. In this matter, Zhu Huntang is far more interested in manipulating others than being tested himself. How could you suspect that you have a baby? Bai Hui took 2 steps back in disbelief, then stepped forward and grabbed Zhu Huntang's arm. How could such a cute, tender, innocent, and lovely fairy be pregnant with a baby? Because of such psychological factors, when Bai Hui looked at Zhu Huntang, she felt that her fairy temperament had faded a lot, and her eyes that were originally round and round had turned into long and narrow eyes, which were a little more charming. In fact, Zhu Huntang's eyes have never been the round and round type. When she doesn't use colored contact lenses or deliberately widen her eyes, Zhu Huntang's temperament is not that of an innocent girl. Have you ever heard of the power of staring, which is to stare at someone who is pregnant? Zhu Huntang immediately widened his eyes and stared at Bai Hui's belly. It's as if she has this magical power. Bai Hui quickly raised her hand to cover her belly, but she couldn't let Zhu Huntang glare at her for being pregnant. After a slight panic, she came to her senses. What was she worrying about? I've never heard of it, but if you stare at others like this for a long time, they will think you are sick. Bai Hui raised his hand and waved it in front of Zhu Huntang's eyes. Lu Chang'an knows how to do it. Zhu Huntang began to use the intelligence-lowering keywords on Bai Hui. Really? I don't believe it. Bai Hui hesitated for a moment. She was not that easy to deceive. Then why did I buy this testing machine? Do I have nothing to do when I'm full? Zhu Huntang pointed to the complete set of equipment including the diagnosis and treatment bed. Zhu Huntang has enough time to have nothing to do anymore. Bai Hui looked at these advanced-looking machines and turned her eyes around. The focus now was on why Zhu Huntang suspected that she had a baby and thought Lu Chang'an had the ability to stare. Does this matter have anything to do with Lu Chang'an? Bai Hui decided to help another good friend of his find out. Do you suspect that you are pregnant after being stared at by Lu Chang'an? After Bai Hui finished speaking, he felt that he had been staying with Zhu Huntang for a long time, and his mind was getting more and more abnormal. He actually used a very serious tone to ask this extremely ridiculous question. Anyone with a little knowledge of modern science will not face this problem seriously. I only doubt myself a little bit, and the main object of my suspicion is you. Zhu Huntang stretched out his finger and poked Bai Hui's belly. Why do you doubt me? I have nothing to do with him, I have nothing to do with him, Bai Hui denied with a blushing face and glanced at Zhu Huntang to see if she was purely teasing or a little serious. Zhu Huntang actually looks very serious. Could it be that in Zhu Huntang's eyes, such a shameless thing happened between him and Lu Chang'an? Oh, no, what she suspected was that Lu Chang'an glared at Bai Hui and Bai Hui got pregnant. She didn't suspect that Bai Hui and Lu Chang'an had a relationship. Bai Hui realized this soberly and with shame. If you want to prove your innocence, just take a test. Zhu Huntang began to take off her skirt. I want to change into a doctor's white coat first. What about you? Are you wearing a nurse uniform or a doctor uniform? I am wearing serious clothes. I also want to wear a white coat. Bai Hui fought for it firmly. The clothes were indeed serious clothes, but there was nothing she could do about her figure. No matter what she wore, she could easily be mistaken for that. Only the doctor's white coat can cover her up, making her look less lustful. Everything is fine. We are testing and playing, and we also need to take selfies. Zhu Huntang said nonchalantly, let me read the manual first, how to use this thing. Do we really need to be tested? But I don't believe Lu Chang'an can glare. Bai Hui is willing to change into a doctor's professional attire to see what he looks like, but he is not ready to be a guinea pig for Zhu Huntang. It's really ridiculous. Medical equipment can also do it. As a toy. Actually, none of this is important. What's important is that you can talk about this topic with Lu Chang. And Zhu Huntang's lips curled up slightly. Anyway, you can blame me for why you did such a ridiculous thing. Oh my, Xiao Tang. Even if you are such a nonsense person, there is nothing I can do about it. I won't talk about this kind of topic with him, it's embarrassing. Bai Hui firmly refused. Yeah, Zhu Huntang yelled in agreement. Fortunately, he was a fairy sheep exuding aloof and indifferent temperament, so he would not become stupid like these women when they fall in love with someone, and then be attracted by the witty Zhu Huntang. Play in the palm of your hand. After Yan Qingcheng left Beilong Center, she looked up at the towering building. For a moment, it was hard to believe that she had just come down from such a high altitude. In terms of background, the gap between him and Zhu Huntang is probably much more exaggerated than the height of this building. A gap as high as Mount Everest? The distance between the moon and the earth is about as long as it is. After all, now rich people are planning to travel to the earth and the moon, and with the financial resources of the Zhu family, there should be no problem. But it doesn't matter. As long as people live with their own pursuits, see hope in their efforts, and get a little bit of satisfaction, they will gradually accumulate into a happy life. Thinking of Bai Hui just now, Yan Qingcheng had always envied such a girl, but she really wanted her to become that kind of person, but was unwilling to do so. Bai Hui is very popular in the school, and Yan Qingcheng knows this. During the 100 Regiments War last year, Bai Hui performed at the House Dance Club's new recruitment event to gain popularity. The whole audience chanted her name. What girl wouldn't envy that feeling of being in the spotlight? When girls say they like to keep a low profile, 80% of the time it's actually just because they don't have the capital to be high profile. Bai Hui has a really good figure. Maybe when Lu Chang'an is with her, his eyes will glance at Bai Hui's chest from time to time, just like his eyes sometimes fall on her legs. Yan Qingcheng was not disgusted, because his eyes were always so casual, without any hint of vulgarity or covetousness, not to mention that his girlfriend's legs were already the best. Well, they could only be regarded as from Hunan University. One of 3 legs. Yan Qingcheng remembered the business and sent a text message to Lu Chang'an, "Are you still at Teacher Qin's house? I just left Bailong Center. I heard that your home is nearby." "My home is right next to you, not far or near." It was rare for Lu Chang'an to reply to a text message so quickly. Yan Qingcheng was a little surprised. The key question was, what did his text message mean and why he suddenly became so literary? "I can't understand." Yan Qingcheng did not try to forcefully interpret Lu Chang'an's meaning. "If you want to come, my home is still at your feet even if it is thousands of miles away. If you don't want to come, even if it is at your feet, it is still thousands of miles away." Yan Qingcheng hesitated for a moment and replied, "I want to talk to you about Zhu Huntang. Sorry, I'm still at my cousin's house." Seeing such a reply, Yan Qingcheng took a deep breath. "Forget it, let's figure out Zhu Huntang's teaching experience by herself." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 760. Lu Chang'an had just finished checking his cousin's body. His mental state gradually returned to stability, and his physical state also returned to stability under the control of his strong will. I was a little surprised to receive Yan Qingcheng's text message, but after a little analysis, I was a little relieved. It was probably that I played a certain role in Zhu Huntang's education, which made Yan Qingcheng admire him and wanted to ask for advice. Let's talk about his experience in teaching and educating people. Apart from this, Yan Qingcheng probably has nothing to discuss with him about Zhu Huntang. Lu Chang'an is not proud either. The most important thing in education is to teach students according to their aptitude. It is very easy to tame a little lamb. After thinking about it, Lu Chang'an still sent a text message to Yan Qingcheng, "Lure the people into the group, make them supreme, correct their hearts, be good at knowing the right time and wrong time, tame all people, teach without losing time, and be good at knowing what to do at the right time." Since Yan Qingcheng has experience as a part-time tutor and has cultural knowledge above high school, she will definitely be able to understand what she said and solve the problems she encountered during her lessons with Zhu Huntang. Probably the next time Yan Qingcheng sees him, he can't help but show an expression of admiration. This is also the admiration Lu Chang'an often receives after giving guidance to others, and it has long been forgotten. "Who are you texting?" Qin Yanan took a shower, changed her clothes and came out. Originally, the short skirt was a bit too much. Qin Yanan wanted to tease her brother, but after some close contact, she felt shy and wore a pair of black culottes and a white sleeveless gauze. Although it still has a v-neck and backless style, compared to what I wore just now, doesn't it cover more than 80% of the skin? It can cover so much skin. Even if it exposes the soft back, it is considered very conservative. After all, the v-neck only reveals a little bit of skin. Yan Qingcheng, it's probably about tutoring Zhu Huntang. Lu Chang'an shook his head gently, "It's normal to need to ask me for advice." Yan Qingcheng tutored Zhu Huntang for a while last semester, and Zhu Huntang was not the last in the final exam. 1. Qin Yanan laughed out loud, and the flower branches trembled like snow falling on plum branches and the wind caressing willow branches. "Maybe Xiao Tang really received a happy education from childhood," Qin Yanan said, a little hard to understand. "Among the young people I know, she is the only one whose grades were really so bad when they were studying. The third wife, Sunangziu, well, Sumei is often furious about Zhu Huntang's studies, but she doesn't seem to be very anxious, saying that she takes her time and has plenty of time to teach her. Lu Chang'an glanced at Qin Yinan. Qin Yinan seemed to have guessed something and was testing him. Lu Chang'an said nothing. Qin Yinan did not take any roundabout approach to her brother, and directly expressed her guess. Now I feel that her attitude is not that of parents who are laissez-faire or helpless. She may have two meanings. First, she has plenty of time to teach Zhu Huntang. Anyway, she has a lot of time to do it herself. Even if Zhu Huntang is still confused when he grows up, it doesn't matter. Second, Zhu Huntang has plenty of time to grow up. Compared with Zhu Huntang's subsequent life, 18 years old, Zhu Huntang, who is 19 years old this year, is just a confused baby. Zhu Huntang is Sumei's biological child, just like the gestational sac in your belly. If Qin Yinan hadn't thought about it, Lu Chang'an wouldn't have said it, but now that she had an idea and began to doubt and speculate, Lu Chang'an wouldn't make up lies to deceive her and continue to hide it. Qin Yinan was already somewhat mentally prepared. After all, this was something she had suspected for a long time, but after it was confirmed, she was still unwilling to accept it. She raised her hand and pressed it on her lower abdomen, looked at Lu Chang'an with a slightly aggrieved look, then lowered her head silently, and sat on the chair next to Lu Chang'an, her eyes falling on the corner without saying a word. He saw her gesture like this, and must have understood. He originally thought that he was the only one with his child in his belly, and he was quite proud. He felt a bit superior to Sumei, but he didn't know that she had given birth to him a long time ago. She has no face, does he know? Resentful and aggrieved, what should he do if a woman behaves like this? Do you know? This was all done for him to see. Of course Qin Yinan had no grudge against Lu Chang'an. This was all Sumei's fault. This insidious woman, no wonder Sumei was able to quickly accept and deal with it calmly when she discovered that Qin Yinan had a child in her belly, instead of being hysterical and angry as Qin Yinan thought. All because she had given birth to a child for him a long time ago, she had already experienced it. Unless he puts his arm around her shoulders, picks her up like a princess, comforts her with gentle words, and then finds a way to give her child some nutrition, otherwise Qin Yinan will remain like this for at least 3 days. She sat here motionless like a resentful woman. Don't tell Zhu Huntang. Lu Chang'an can't imagine Zhu Huntang's reaction when he knows the truth. It's unimaginable, but as soon as he imagines it, he feels a splitting headache and feels uncomfortable all over, just like when he was lying in the forest with small animals. We were playing when suddenly a meteorite hit us. The Earth has been hit by countless meteorites. Some meteorites are larger and some are smaller. Of course, being hit by meteorites is a common occurrence in life. Qin Yinan didn't say anything. Her current state of smiling and speechless, hating the remnants of spring could only be relieved by when we go to Chang'an hand in hand. She didn't care about other things at all. Sooner or later she will give birth, but if you want to give birth now, is that really what you expect? Lu Chang'an gently stroked her head. Qin Yinan pouted and looked up at him. This was the truth, but she was a little unwilling to do so. What if we rush to think of a way to give birth to a second bamboo Huntang earlier? Lu Chang'an said with a frown. Qin Yinan couldn't help but have a picture in his mind. He gave birth to a child. When the doctor brought him over, he took it with an expectant, kind, and gentle smile. He watched the child open his mouth and screamed "Baa" towards Qin Yinan. There was a sound. Thinking of this, Qin Yinan shuddered, not so anxious, and said quickly, I just want, anyway, if I want to give birth in the future, you have to let my baby be born with adequate nutrition. After saying that, Qin Yinan leaned against him with slightly red cheeks. Lu Chang'an touched her head and finally coaxed her. At this time there was some movement at the door. Lu Chang'an pulled his fingers out from Qin Yinan's black hair, walked to the door, opened the door and walked out, then closed the door. Shang Guandandan, who had just been leaning against the door, was pushed back by Lu Chang'an. "You hit me, I'm going to fall." Shang Guandandan stretched out his hand and grabbed Lu Chang'an's chest, pinched a place that could be pinched, stabilized his body, and took a long breath. Fortunately, he did not fall. If the noble Queen Mother fell, she would not be majestic. Lu Chang'an lowered his head and looked at Shang Guandandan's fingers. In the future, if a woman loses her ability to breastfeed, she will have to rely on men to evolve the position to breastfeed. Can she pinch it at will? Shang Guandandan twisted again before letting go. He looked up at Lu Chang'an and found that his expression was as if he had thrown her from the balcony on the second floor one day. "I think you may need this." Shang Guandandan took out a small square plastic object from his sleeve pocket, "but I'm not sure, so I'll listen to it." "Where did you come from?" Lu Chang'an reached into her sleeve pocket, dug through both sides, and found effervescent tablets, ketchup packets, headbands, empty red envelopes, and 3 white rabbit toffees. "One day Dong Dong and I went to the wet market to buy loaches. Several people who said they were red ribbons were handing out these things, so I asked for 2." Shang Guandandan recalled that as an active part of modern life, the Queen Mother, who feels like a modern person like Lu Chang'an, certainly knows what this is for. "Where is the other one?" Lu Chang'an dug into her sleeve pocket again and found another 20 yuan and a bag of crispy noodles, but did not find the second one. "At that time, Dong Dong asked me what it was, and I said it was a balloon. I blew up a big one for Dong Dong to play with. After Dong Dong took it home, Dong Dong's mother snatched it away and threw it away." Dong Dong's mother's face turned red, especially cute. Shang Guandandan recalled again, "I like Dong Dong's mother the most. She is traditional, gentle, and blushing. She is much cuter than other women who are eager to move when they smell your scent. I'm not say Yaya is not cute, Yaya is also very cute." After listening to her ramble, Lu Chang'an didn't bother to care about her behavior of trying to listen to the corner just now, and stuffed the things he took out of her sleeve pockets back. Seeing Lu Chang'an still expressionless, Shang Guandandan jumped up and kissed Lu Chang'an on the face. After landing, Shang Guan stood on tiptoes and looked at Lu Chang'an, who unexpectedly turned his head. He tilted his head to look at him with a flushed face. "Are you still angry?" "I'm too lazy to care about you." Lu Chang'an touched his face, "Not as knowledgeable as this little old lady. I'm a little hungry. I want Yaya to prepare afternoon tea for me." Seeing that Lu Chang'an was no longer angry, Shang Guandandan tugged on his finger and shook it, looking at him expectantly. "When you wake up from a nap, you will feel hungry and need to eat. I'm hungry too." When someone said they were hungry, they must have eaten something. Zhou Dongdong woke up quickly, crawled out of bed, ran out to check and found nothing to eat, so he touched his stomach and said, "I'm hungry too." Lu Chang'an was infected by his strong will and felt the same way. "I'll prepare it for you, just wait a moment." Qin Yinan calmed down her shy and charming expression and walked out. She had just eavesdropped in the bedroom and knew what Shang Guandandan was doing. Although the mother has a certain assisting effect, what Qin Yinan needs now is not that. That will hinder her baby from absorbing nutrients, which is a disservice. However, Shang Guandandan said that she liked Zhou Shuling the most, which made Qin Yinan feel a little bit in crisis. She had to come out quickly and show off. The status of Queen Seal does not mean that it is extremely stable. She must not slack off in licking the Queen's mother. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 761. After eating, Lu Chang'an left with Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong. Qin Yinan sent them to the ropeway station and waved goodbye. Maybe it was because he had received nutritional supplements in some strange time and space. Qin Yinan touched his lower abdomen and felt that he had given birth to a child. The days of children are not far away. After Qin Yanan returned, she called Zhu Huntang and knew that she and Bai Hui were playing, so she didn't say anything more. She felt a little emotional, just like boys often can't resist the feeling that I am your brother and also your father, the feeling between best friends that I am your sister but also your stepmother seems not bad. When a child is born in the future, he will chase Zhu Huntang and call him sister. Thinking about this scene, it feels very wonderful. When children first learn to speak, they cannot play with Zhu Huntang, otherwise they will only scream baa baa. Then Zhu Huntang will scream more vigorously, and baa 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 will be heard one after another in his ears. Probably will be more irritable. Lu Chang'an took the cable car down the mountain. Shang Guandandan was worried about his electric pony carriage. He hurried to the parking place and breathed a sigh of relief when he saw it parked safe and sound. Thinking that he had been away from it for so long and that it was waiting for him obediently and alone, Shang Guandandan felt pity in his heart. He touched the handle and rear view mirror, then sat on it and hugged the front of the car. Zhou Dongdong saw Shang Guandandan's worries and decided to go back and give her the small plastic lock included in the handicraft class materials so that she could lock the electric car more securely. Lu Chang'an saw Gao Duai and a girl walking into a nearby bookstore talking and laughing. Gao Duai still put his arm around the girl's shoulders. Somewhat surprised, Lu Chang'an took Zhou Dongdong and Shang Guandandan to the nearby beverage shop and ordered 2 drinks and 2 toasts for them. They are little animals that can run around. You need to wait in the store for about 5 minutes to bake bread. During this time, they will sit there obediently and motionless. Lu Chang'an came to the bookstore and walked next to Gao Duai and the girl. After taking a look at the girl, I realized that I had misunderstood. This girl was tall and well developed, but her eyebrows were somewhat similar to Gao Duai's, so she was probably a younger sister. Chang'an, what a coincidence, are you here to buy the exercise book too? Gao Duai said happily when he saw Lu Chang'an. I thought you were dating Tao Peiwen or Miao Yingying, Lu Chang'an said with a smile. Those 2 retarded men are worthy of my cousin. Before Gao Duai spoke, the girl next to him looked displeased and disdainful. What you said about Miao Yingying, I agree 60% of the time, but Tao Peiwen is not mentally retarded. Lu Chang'an shook his head. Tao Peiwen and Gao Duai are from the same school, and neither of them plans to use their alma mater as a preparatory school for studying in the United States. That's it? Lu Chang'an still admires Tao Peiwen. You must be Lu Chang'an. My brother said you are very powerful. The girl looked at Lu Chang'an and nodded, you are quite handsome. He must be very carefree. He is not as honest and reliable as my cousin. Lu Chang'an and Gao Duai looked at each other, and Gao Duai touched his head to express embarrassment. My aunt's child, Mao Xiaochang, is a senior at the high school affiliated to Normal University. Gao Duai introduced, her birthday is coming soon. I will buy her some birthday gifts. Good name. Although Mao Xiaochang was not the kind of person who spoke in all directions, Lu Chang'an didn't care. He looked at the bookstore, his eyes flashed, and he quickly searched for a thick set of books in the bookstore. He turned out the thick exercise set and handed it to Gao Duai, buy this set. Lu Chang'an and Gao Duai are good friends, and of course they know that the birthday gifts Gao Duai is going to buy are probably good things like exercise books. This is a good set. After 3 years, Professor Zhang finally released a set of classic exercises. Let's look at Professor Jiang's ideas for setting the questions. Gee, I still want to challenge this type of questions, Gao Duai said eagerly. Buy 2 sets and you can compete, Lu Chang'an suggested. Good idea, Gao Duai immediately agreed. Lu Chang'an knew what he meant. He also consulted Miao Yingying and Tao Peiwen on what to buy as a birthday gift for his cousin, but Gao Duai didn't like their ideas very much. Mao Xiaochang glared at Lu Chang'an, and Lu Chang'an cupped his hand to express his welcome. After talking to Gao Duai, he went out. Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong had already received their own toast, and Lu Chang'an took them back. Shang Guandandan's was flavored with nuts and chocolate, and Zhou Dongdong's was cheese durian sandwich. The two of them exchanged a few bites, and then gave Lu Chang'an a taste. Finally, Lu Chang'an said that neither of them tasted good, so they stopped sharing it with Lu Chang'an. After dinner and a short rest in the evening, the square dance team gathered together and chose the rooftop of the podium building of Bailong Center for dance practice. The podium building has only 4 floors. There is a relatively large leisure square on the roof and a sky garden. The hotel also has an entrance and exit here. There is a 2-way driveway on the roof leading directly to the street, making it convenient for hotel passengers to enter and exit. Normally, this place is not occupied by square dance teams. When the old men and ladies from the community dance team appeared, the management of Bailong Center was about to stop them. However, they found out that the leader was Zhu Huntang, so they all scattered around and pretended. Preparing to maintain order and prepare to watch. This is the dance coach I'm looking for you. Lu Chang'an has already taught old men and women the exercises to improve their body flexibility, and is ready to hand over the real coaching job to Bai Hui. Bai Hui stood next to Lu Chang'an, showing a slightly shy smile, because these grandparents were all looking at her, and at the same time glanced at Lu Chang'an, as if they were suspecting that she had some ambiguous relationship with Lu Chang'an. Although Bai Hui understood this, it was difficult for Bai Hui to explain. He rushed to say that he and Lu Chang'an had nothing to do, which seemed a bit pretentious, so Bai Hui had to endure it a little uncomfortably and not explain. Grandpas and grandmas, I want to sponsor your dance team, such as the dance team uniform, team name, etc. If you get the first place, there will be sponsorship rewards, each person will have the latest iPhone, and a team trip, Zhu Huntang said generously. Do you all agree? Agree. Little girl, are you serious? Are you trying to persuade us? Xiao Lu, is it true? Zhu Huntang thought about it as it came out, and did not discuss it with Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an would not interfere with what she wanted to do, and just nodded. Lu Chang'an still has some prestige in the community. After all, everyone has played cards with him and been rubbed against the card table by his mahjong tiles and running beard. With his endorsement, everyone happily agreed. Okay, the name of our dance team is the Bread Man Dance Team. You are my subordinates for the time being, including Lu Chang'an. Zhu Huntang raised his hand and patted Lu Chang'an on the shoulder, with the expression of a boss meeting his younger brother. Lu Chang'an gave her a slap on the back of the head. It turned out that this was the purpose of sponsoring the dance team. Let's start training quickly, Zhou Shuling also said positively. She doesn't like to take advantage of others, but she is a member of the dance team. With such a reward, her enthusiasm has increased a lot. We must win first place. Shang Guandandan exuded a desperate aura, because she now knew that the mobile phone Lu Chang'an bought her was a very cheap one and not as useful as others. Can you do the airplane dance? Zhou Dongdong had forgotten the shame of the year and began to twist around to show that he was also actively participating. Zhu Huntang prepared speakers, projectors, and screens in the square and started playing Bai Hui's dance. At the same time, he opened the barrage to let the old men and women know Bai Hui's popularity first, which would make Bai Hui more authoritative when he was a coach. Sex. We didn't train for too long on the first day, and we broke up after just 2 hours of fun. But everyone was very motivated and full of confidence in getting a good place in the street dance competition. Zhou Shuling took Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong home, while Lu Chang'an stayed and talked to Bai Hui Zhu Huntang for a while before going back. When Lu Chang'an returned home, Zhou Dongdong was sitting next to the electric heating table, sniffing and doing his homework. After writing a little, he raised his head and howled. You haven't done your winter vacation homework yet, and school is about to start. I'm almost mad at you, Zhou Shuling said angrily. Teaching children to do homework is really a painful thing. Zhou Shuling is now a little lucky that her original ideal was to be a primary school teacher. Thinking about it, If she really became a primary school teacher and had to teach so many children to do homework, she would be pissed to death. Dong Dong, has your mother hit you or scolded you? Lu Chang'an asked with a gentle smile, sitting opposite Zhou Dongdong and next to Zhou Shuling. Hit my finger. Zhou Dongdong stretched out a short finger. Next time your mother hits you and scolds you, tell brother Chang'an. Lu Chang'an squeezed her fleshy fingers. Will you protect me? Zhou Dongdong asked expectantly. No. Think about it, you will be beaten and scolded anyway, but if you are seen by me, I will be very happy. Tell me by the way, make me happy, why not do it? This is school teachers often talk about the principle of helping others. Lu Chang'an told Zhou Dongdong the principles of life. Zhou Dongdong was stunned for a moment. What brother Chang'an said seemed to make sense, but Zhou Dongdong felt that something was wrong, so he looked at his mother in confusion. Zhou Shuling raised her hand and hit Lu Chang'an several times. She was already angry with Zhou Dongdong, and another inhumane person came to her. Actually, don't be angry. Many questions that you think are very simple are not easy for children. Just like the questions that I think are very simple, you may not be able to do them, but I will educate you patiently. Lu Chang'an read looking at Zhou Shuling, she said with some expectation, I will give you a question to do. If you don't know how, I will teach you later. If you can, I will teach Zhou Dongdong her winter vacation homework. Although Lu Chang'an's eyes and expression were suspicious, Zhou Shuling nodded without hesitation when she thought of the possibility of getting rid of the painful task of teaching children to do homework. Don't make it too difficult, don't ask questions that have tens of thousands or tens of thousands of numbers. Zhou Shuling still remembered the last time he asked a question that only consisted of a few letters and seemed to be very simple, but the answer was thousands. Tens of thousands of digits. Chinese question. Lu Chang'an typed on his mobile phone, dirty, 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 dirty. Lu Chang'an handed these words to Zhou Shuling to read. Zhou Shuling looked at these words and her lips gradually pursed in grievance. She knew this would happen. Please find the words Wakuo and Juyu from these phrases. Lu Chang'an showed it to Zhou Shuling and then to Zhou Dongdong. Zhou Dongdong glanced at it and felt like he was going to coma. Is this the word that adults need to learn? It must be the scariest question in the world. Naasi means bad character, unclean thoughts, narrow-mindedness, and low vision. Nowadays, many people often use it mixed with discord. Discord is often used to refer to disagreements between two people, and some disputes. Something like that. Lu Chang'an also had the purpose of teaching and educating people. After all, he was a stupid mother in front of him and could only give some simple questions. Zhou Shuling looked at the words typed on Lu Chang'an's phone, bit her lip, hesitated for a while, and pointed at two random words. Actually, the two phrases I mentioned are not in it. Lu Chang'an laughed, and then typed the correct words dirty and discord on his mobile phone to show her, explaining the difference between the two. Why are you so annoying? Zhou Shuling was teased by him again. She angrily reached out to grab her phone and typed the word annoying on it. Will I be a fool like my mother when I grow up? Zhou Dongdong said with some worry. Her mother never got the questions asked by Chang and brother right once. You already are. Zhou Shuling patted her forehead. The big one and the little one really made her angry one after another. At this time, Shang Guandandan was holding a thermos bottle and happily prepared to watch the TV series at 9:30. Dan Dan, do you recognize these words? Zhou Shuling showed Shang Guandandan the words Lu Chang'an typed on his mobile phone. Shang Guandandan frowned, took out his mobile phone from his sleeve pocket, took a photo of the words, identified them with his mobile phone and showed them to Zhou Shuling. Zhou Shuling was stunned for a moment. Shang Guandandan was already sitting under the electric heating table and holding the remote control to change the channel. If I were as smart as Dan Dan, I could deal with you. Zhou Shuling said to Lu Chang'an angrily, why didn't she think of this method? Shang Guandandan likes to read novels. Many words in modern times are different from those in her time. Although she made rapid progress in learning, she still encountered some obstacles from time to time, so she learned to use an app such as an electronic dictionary or ascertain the recognition and interpretation functions provided by some software. If you were a smart mother, maybe you wouldn't have happily brought Joe Dong Dong to rent my house. A smart mother would suspect that the landlord doesn't charge rent for deposits and the tenants decide to pay it at their own convenience. There must be some conspiracy. Lu Chang'an laughed. Zhou Shuling recalled the past, and her smile couldn't help but reveal some warmth and sweetness. Being able to meet him was probably the smartest decision in her life, even though she was not very smart. Thinking of this, Zhou Shuling held her silly child with one hand, held the back of Lu Chang'an's hand with the other, leaned her head on his shoulder, and said, "I will thank you for the rest of my life." Well, it should be. Lu Chang'an nodded. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 762. Shang Guandandan turned on the TV and was watching an atypical family drama that resonated infinitely with mothers-in-law. Although this was a story that Zhou Dongdong couldn't understand at all, he still had to look up from time to time. After all, it was always staring at the homework makes Zhou Dongdong's head feel dizzy and his eyes hurt. The whole child is very tired. Zhou Shuling took her home to do her homework, but after returning home, Zhou Dongdong thought that without the smartest brother Chang'an around, Zhou Dongdong would be a little less smart, so he didn't want to do it. Zhou Shuling thought about it, and it seemed to make sense. When she was around Lu Chang'an, although she was often beaten by him, it was always easier to get answers to questions at that time, so she had no reason to criticize Zhou Dongdong, a new type of person who didn't do his homework. Lu Chang'an and Shang Guandandan were still watching TV. The heroine in the TV series was pregnant. The hero claimed that she was infertile. Her father-in-law and mother-in-law were also very angry. They believed that the heroine was pregnant with someone else's child and could no longer live at home, so they drove her back to her husband's house. The heroine's father also didn't believe the heroine and insisted that the heroine undergo an amniocentesis to take a paternity test. If the child was really her husband's child, he would ask for 10 million in reputation damages for the birth. If not, he would quietly abort it. There is no proof of death, anyway. We cannot admit that the heroine cuckolded the hero. The kind-hearted and stoic heroine decided to undergo an amniocentesis paternity test to prove her innocence so that she could maintain her marriage and family. When Lu Chang'an saw this, he couldn't help laughing, but he heard Shangwen's little hen-like laughter coming from under the electric heating table. It turned out that she also thought it was quite funny. Lu Chang'an also thought that Shang Guandandan would consciously assume the role of the heroine, which would cause a lot of anger or unwillingness. "Why are you laughing?" Lu Chang'an asked casually. "The heroine's father looks a bit like you when he loses his temper." "I find it funny." Shang Guandandan crawled out from under the electric heating table, looked at Lu Chang'an carefully, and then looked at the TV. She immediately changed her view and shook her head. "It's not like that. Your shirts are just similar." After saying that, Shang Guandandan did not sit under the electric heating table again, but sat down next to Lu Chang'an with a thermos bottle, shook his body, and continued to watch the plot. Lu Chang'an also likes to watch comedy movies and watch them with her. "What would you do if Zhou Dongdong's in-laws were like this?" Shang Guan asked calmly after watching for a while. "Kill them all." "No." Shang Guandandan shook his head. "First, let them all obtain immortal bodies, and then use a strong cage to sink them into the darkest seabed, and let them be imprisoned there forever, but tell them, one day they will be released, lest they go crazy out of despair and have to stay sane." "Are you inspired by your own experience?" Lu Chang'an didn't think there were many people worthy of taking him so seriously. "No, I don't have such an experience." Shang Guandandan poured a glass of effervescent water and drank it happily. "I learned this from watching the mythical fairy tale. There is also a subgenre of mythical immortals in palace fighting dramas. Lu Chang'an gained new insights. Of course, continue to teach me how to ride an electric pony tomorrow morning, did he? Shang Guandandan looked at Lu Chang'an expectantly and called out twice. Lu Chang'an nodded. Fortunately, Shang Guandandan just screamed "Diddy" twice because she was thinking of her electric car. Otherwise, if she were like Zhu Huntang, it would make people feel that Shang Guandandan has also become a mount. There are two mount-type creatures, the bleeding fairy sheep and Didi's electric pony carriage, which evolved from Zhu Huntang and Shang Guandandan respectively. Lu Chang'an was watching TV and thinking about these messy things. Shang Guandandan leaned on his shoulder and watched TV comfortably. After a while, Shang Guandandan felt a little sleepy, but he didn't want to go downstairs to sleep, so he took his arm and put it on his shoulders, squeezed into his arms and leaned against him, then struggled a few times with his eyes blurred. The picture on the TV turned into a vast expanse of white, and Shang Guan fell asleep. The next morning, Shang Guandandan woke up and found that Lu Chang'an had also fallen asleep next to the electric heating table. He actually slept in his arms all night. It was really hurting his health, so he quickly slipped under the quilt and got out of the electric heating table. He crawled out from under the kotetsu. After going downstairs, she had to prepare water to boil. Shang Guandandan didn't care much about what happened just now. After all, it was normal for a mother to sleep with her baby in her arms, just like Zhou Shuling often slept with Zhou Dongdong in her arms. Lu Chang'an was no longer young, but the Queen Mother still felt pity for him, Shang Guandandan thought as he took out the small stove to light the fire. The winter vacation is gradually shortening as children are slightly worried about the start of school. Every morning, people are thinking in their hearts that they must have fun today and enjoy the freedom and relaxation that rare holidays bring to people. In fact, it is no longer so free and relaxed. The gradual disappearance of beautiful things always makes people feel heavy. This is true from the beauty of a woman to Zhou Dongdong's vacation. Early in the morning, Zhou Dongdong rushed downstairs and stopped with his heels under the sycamore tree. When he turned around, he saw Shang Guandandan, who had boiled water, caressing her electric car lovingly. "Sister Dandan, please lock this lock too." Zhou Dongdong dug in his pocket for a while, found the small plastic lock and the iron key, and handed them to Shang Guandandan. "Well, this makes me feel more at ease." Shang Guandandan took it and carefully hung the small plastic lock on the ring of the car key. Zhou Dongdong jumped up and down, very happy. Shang Guandandan originally planned to go to the vegetable market with Zhou Dongdong. When he saw her coming down, he took her hand and walked out of the community. "It will be more comfortable when I dare to ride an electric bike out in the future." Shang Guandandan is a hard-working queen mother. It's not that she doesn't like the feeling of walking, but she just prefers to ride an electric bike through the city's fog to start a new day. "Dan Dan, after dinner, go to Xiao Xie's place. This is when I met Shang Guandandan to play cards on the road." Shang Guandandan said Now she is a more popular card player in the community than Lu Chang'an because she is cute, and old men and women especially like to look at her face. Walking to the vegetable market, Shang Guandandan looked at the stalls selling braised vegetables and cold dishes for a while, and picked some kelp, shredded potatoes, yuba, and fungus. Nervously staring at the electronic scale, the price showed that it did not exceed 5 yuan in the end. Shang Guandandan breathed a sigh of relief, so he asked to buy 2 more small fins separately. The small wing root is a meat dish, and the price is different. The stall owner glanced at Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong, and smiled helplessly. If they hadn't come to buy it, they wouldn't sell it like this. But people are all judged by their looks, so who makes them look cute? Looking at their eagerly staring expressions, they couldn't refuse. The two of them pinched the wings and ate them. Shang Guandandan took Zhou Dongdong further and walked around the park in the middle of the street before going back. "I originally wanted to go somewhere further, but I was a little tired. I didn't have breakfast in the morning. The distance was more than 2 miles each time. Dandan had tried his best. On the way back, Shangguan Dandan saw a banner that read "Build a new civilized society and promote the spirit of helping others." Dong Dong, do you know what it means to be helpful? Starting from the little things in life, Shangguan Dandan has no chance to train Lu Chang'an, but he can educate Zhou Dongdong. I know, I'm always willing to help others. Zhou Dongdong put his hands in his pockets, frowned and nodded. What things have you done to help others? Shangguan Dandan thought of the small lock that Zhou Dongdong gave to her to help her strengthen the safety of her electric car. This should be considered the scope of being helpful to others. Every time my mother hits me, Brother Chang'an is very happy. This is helpfulness. Zhou Dongdong is a smart and brave child. Brother Chang'an explained it last night, and Zhou Dongdong has mastered the life of being helpful to others. Reason. Shangguan Dandan nodded and said nothing. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 763. Shangguan Dandan and Zhou Dongdong, who is witty, brave, innocent, lively, and helpful, went home carrying a fist-sized bag of cold vegetables. Being able to prepare a dish for breakfast in the early morning is clearly a sign that Shangguan Dandan is as virtuous as Zhou Shuling. Shangguan Dandan is very satisfied with himself and hopes that Lu Chang'an will feel that she brings her to the cold dishes when he eats them. Give him this warm detail from everyday life. During breakfast, she saw that the cold dishes bought by Shangguan Dandan were eaten up by Lu Chang'an and Zhou Dongdong in several mouthfuls. Zhou Shuling decided to make some cold dishes by herself tomorrow morning. After all, many types of ingredients in the cold dish stalls in the vegetable market are difficult to clean. Ensure hygiene. Especially kelp and fungus, these two ingredients are dark, and it is not easy to tell whether they are clean or not. Those sold outside may not be carefully cleaned. Just like Zhou Shuling likes to eat crayfish, she makes them herself and takes a toothbrush to clean them. Just brush it clean. After breakfast, he taught Shangguan Dandan how to ride an electric bike for a while, and then Lu Chang'an set off to the airport to pick up his girlfriend whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Lu Chang'an's girlfriend is called In Nuan, and she is 19 years old this year. She is a freshman at Xiongnan University. She is a high school classmate with Lu Chang'an. She is very tall and has the most enviable figure for girls of her age. She has long and straight legs and a slender waist. She has also practiced Lu Chang'an's Kinwei alchemy. Her face is also extremely beautiful, and there is no blemish on her body. At this time, Bai Hui and Zhu Huntang were on the top floor of Beilong Center. Bai Hui used binoculars to see Lu Chang'an leaving the community. Bai Hui didn't go home last night and stayed with her cousin Zhongqing. Zhongqing originally planned to call Lu Chang'an for supper, but was too busy with work and forgot about it. Bai Hui didn't have the nerve to remind Zhongqing. After all, Bai Hui just wanted to have a late-night snack. It was not an important matter. After all, her cousin's work was the priority. She couldn't let Zhongqing go to have a late-night snack without working, right? She also specially ordered takeout for herself and Zhongqing to show that after finishing the supper, she had nothing to worry about. I originally planned to install a constant temperature swimming pool at the top of the Wonderland garden. The bottom of the swimming pool is transparent and you can directly see the flowers and plants in the garden, but the construction is difficult, Zhu Huntang said with a bit of regret. She lives here for the sake of the floor. The forest park here abandoned the go-kart track. As a result, the go-kart track was not repaired, and neither was the forest park. This kind of living environment is a bit monotonous and crude, so Zhu Huntang had no choice but to expand her fairyland garden on the roof. This is a transparent glass house with various flowers that Zhu Huntang likes. It is also one of the main scenes for her selfies. Then what? Bai Hui asked absently. From the way Lu Chang'an walked, he found that he was actually wearing a pair of leather shoes today. He didn't know what he was going to do. The designer suggested converting the bottom of the original open-air swimming pool to be transparent, and then redesigning a garden in the room at the bottom of the swimming pool. Zhu Huntang was looking forward to it with satisfaction. He turned around and glanced at Bai Hui and found that she was still looking through the telescope. "What are you looking at?" Zhu Huntang's Dongbei dialect brought Bai Hui back to his senses. In fact, Lu Chang'an had already walked onto the street, and it was difficult to spot him through the telescope. Bai Hui took out her mobile phone, glanced at the annual fee yellow diamond noble symbol in her space, and then entered N Nuan's space to take a look. From last night to just now, N Nuan has posted 6 comments, all of which are photos and content related to her upcoming return to Junxia today. Everyone at Lu Chang'an. What's funny is that Lu Chang'an neither responded to N Nuan's comments nor gave a like to express his response. Bai Hui felt that it would be so shameless if he was a person like this and the other party had this attitude. This is enough to show that Lu Chang'an treats N Nuan, forget it, it's none of his business. If I guessed correctly, Lu Chang'an went to the airport to pick up N Nuan, and he even wore leather shoes. In the entire 3 years of high school and 1 year of college, I have never seen him wearing leather shoes a few times. Bai Hui snorted. He doesn't look good in leather shoes. He looks a bit like a toddler and is pretentious. It is said that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Oh, it would not look good if Zishi went to meet another lover. Zhu Huntang wisely discovered the truth. I'm not his lover. Bai Hui blushed, but was still a little depressed. Lu Chang'an comes to your place to play, will he dress more formally? Big pants, flip-flops, and a white vest with holes, it's just like the male protagonists who often appear in previous novels, in order to show that they are playing in the world and trampling on the face of the upper class, they dress like this uninhibitedly when they appear in formal occasions. Zhu Huntang was a little depressed as he said, obviously I am his boss, but I feel like he still won't correct his attitude in front of me. Bai Fen's soft ears automatically filtered out Zhu Huntang's statement that she had become Lu Chang'an's boss. He wore leather shoes today, Bai Hui said again. From this point of view, Lu Chang'an was looking forward to meeting N Nuan today. That's right, it's been a long time. At an age when hormones are in an explosive state all the time, it's hard to hold back. Wasn't it taught in physiology class that boys will spontaneously overflow? Lu Chang'an definitely didn't want to overflow, he thought. Bai Hui blushed and stopped his speculation. I told you to do whatever it takes. Zhu Huntang looked at Bai Hui with hatred. I think back then, if the eldest lady of the Su family hadn't resorted to any means, she hugged a thick thigh, and with her self-righteous business methods and rough with my eyesight, maybe I will be a poor fairy now. What thick thighs? Bai Hui is still very interested in the past gossip of wealthy families. From Zhu Huntang's tone, he can hear the flavor related to the secrets of men and women. That's the one you have a chance to hug, Zhu Huntang said mysteriously, but stopped talking and changed the topic. I have a good way to further the relationship between you and Lu Chang'an. He and I have a very good relationship now, it's good for everyone to maintain the current status. There is no need for men and women. What can I do? Bai Hui bulged his eyes. I'm just asking. As the saying goes, the arm cannot hold the thigh. The only thing that can fight against the thigh is the other thigh. Zhu Huntang pulled Bai Hui to the side of the telescope. After taking a look, she said, that little guy who was groping around on the electric car girl, did you see her yesterday? I know, he is a relative of Lu Chang'an, but I have never heard of him before. It's like an extra relative suddenly appeared. Bai Hui also taught Shang Guandandan to dance yesterday, but Shang Guandandan danced with Zhou Dongdong is the same, just twisting around randomly. Zhou Dongdong was still actively participating. Shang Guandandan looked like she was tired after a while, holding a thermos bottle and drinking water, slowly walked to the side, and then disappeared again. I will establish a good relationship with her first. As long as I establish a good relationship with her, she will classify you into Lu Chang'an's harem. You can first become a nominal concubine in the harem, Zhu Huntang said slightly with a smile. She is a wise strategist. If Miss Su had a military advisor like her by her side, how could she become an abandoned wife and marry someone else? If in ancient times a long time ago, a figure like Zhuliang would have visited the thatched cottage to invite himself out of the mountain instead of going to some peach garden to invite Liu Bei out of the mountain. Zhu Huntang has been to Daowen several times. In recent years, it has been changed into a municipality from Daowen County to Daowen City. It seems to be developing well. However, Zhu Huntang has been to a real municipality in the mainland and feels embarrassed. This municipality, the gap between it and the real municipalities is too big. It must have been even more backward in ancient times. I don't know why Liu Bei and Zhuliang became brothers here. Bai Hui was greatly disappointed. This was a shitty idea from a dog-headed military counselor. Although she didn't really hope for it, Zhu Huntang's idea was a little too unreliable. Bai Hui criticized objectively without any emotion, I really like that little girl, she is super cute. I am also willing to make friends with her, but what you said is too ridiculous. Zhu Huntang smiled and said nothing. After all, Bai Hui was just an ordinary girl. Her experience were different from those of herself as the protector of the Kyushu Fenglai sword section. It was normal that she could not understand it now. Miss Third, Yan Qingcheng is here. Class will start this morning. At this time Zhongqing came over and informed Zhu Huntang. Zhu Huntang suddenly felt uncomfortable, reminded himself to stay calm, and then looked around calmly. Have a good time in class, I'll accompany you. Bai Hui quickly comforted Zhu Huntang gently when she saw Zhu Huntang's desperate attempt to escape, even at the risk of jumping off the building. The leather shoes Lu Chang'an wore today were given by An Nuan. Sometimes she and Lu Yuwang would go shopping and buy some clothes and shoes for Lu Chang'an. Men like to dress their girlfriends beautifully, and girls also want to be verified by their boyfriends. Own vision. The soles of the shoes are relatively soft and they are quite comfortable to wear. Since An Nuan bought the shoes, Lu Chang'an did not wear leather shoes to walk to the airport 20 to 30 kilometers away. Lu Yuwang carefully planned the return trip for Anyuan and her family. She found that the direct routes from Jinbei Ishan Airport to Junsha Airport were only medium-sized passenger planes. In Lu Yuwang's eyes, medium-sized passenger planes are not as safe as large planes, and the business class seats of medium-sized passenger planes are slightly looser than ordinary cockpits. It is still very uncomfortable to ride for a long time. The most important thing is that flying such a long distance in a medium-sized plane, encountering there were more turbulences in the airflow, and Lu Yuwang was very flustered. So Lu Yuwang decided that the family would take the high-speed train to Beijing first, rest and relax, and visit the National Museum with the elderly, and then take a large passenger plane back to Junsha in Beijing. The flight time was also greatly shortened, and it took more than an hour. Why don't you continue taking the high-speed rail? Because the distance between Beijing and Junsha seems very close, but it actually takes 6 or 7 hours to take the high-speed rail. Lu Yuwang thought her itinerary was perfect, but this was just her personal opinion. An Nuan and her grandparents would vote by a show of hands, and she would have no choice but to follow the arrangements for such a family trip next time. Highly recommend a book. We Wild Monsters Don't Want to Die travels through time and becomes a black dragon, but the world is full of players. In order to survive, gather wild monsters around you, build the most difficult dungeon in history, and strive to become the undefeatable black dragon boss and the great savior of the wild monsters. Picture. Boss, when you help push, put a link in the author's words, just say that the newbie wants to advance, ask the boss to push it, don't say anything about me, boss, I love you. We Wild Monsters Don't Want to Die travels through time and becomes a black dragon, but the world is full of players. In order to survive, gather wild monsters around you, build the most difficult dungeon in history, and strive to become the undefeatable Black Dragon boss and the great savior of the wild monsters. Picture. Boss, when you help push, put a link in the author's words, just say that the newbie wants to advance, ask the boss to push it, don't say anything about me, boss, I love you. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 764. Lu Chang'an first took the subway to the South High-Speed Railway Station. After coming out of the subway station, he walked towards the east exit of the high-speed railway station. Juncha South High-Speed Railway Station is located on the edge of the city. Unlike many high-speed railway stations located in densely built areas of the city, it has many access points and simple signage that is very friendly to outsiders. There is a battery car in the central passage that can take people to the maglev station. Lu Chang'an did not take it. He also saw some people with name tags who looked like high-speed rail station staff directing passers-by to take the bus to the airport. Lu Chang'an ignored them. These people just put a bus in the parking lot of the high-speed rail station and ran the transportation themselves. Lu Chang'an is very satisfied with himself. He keeps pace with the times and is good at using complete public service facilities, eliminating the need to pay attention to security details when dealing directly with various people. He is not worried about his own safety. The key is to avoid conflicts. When he is angry, he can't help but rub people into ashes, which is not in line with the core values of society. His temper is quite good now. For example, he once lamented that he did not kill Zhu Huntang and allowed her to dance around for so long. Fortunately, I didn't kill him. If he could put her back into Su Mei's belly and reshape her, Lu Chang'an would not hesitate. Lu Chang'an actually doesn't have particularly high standards for his offspring. It would be best if they were girls like An Nuan, who are smart and cute. True wit is not claiming to be witty. Thinking of this, Lu Chang'an couldn't help laughing, with the corners of his mouth slightly raised. When he arrived at the maglev station, Lu Chang'an swiped his ID card and passed the security check. He saw that the ticket vending machine still did not support the use of mobile phones to purchase tickets, so he had to ask a girl who brought cash to help buy an extra ticket, and then transferred 20 yuan to the other party via WeChat. Maybe next year or the year after that, we will be able to support mobile phone ticket purchase. There are only 3 commercially operated maglev routes in China, one of which is in Juncha. It was Lu Chang'an's first time riding one and he felt pretty good. He always has a positive and welcoming attitude towards technological progress and application. When they arrived at the airport and saw An Nuan and Lu Yuang, An Nuan's grandparents had already left first because they wanted to go back in completely different directions. Lu Chang'an saw An Nuan from a distance. She was wearing a light pink printed shirt, which had a sweet and salty feel. The design of the lapel and tie gave the girl a more capable temperament, and she was paired with black high-waisted shorts. With her slender legs tightly together, she looked like a girly supermodel who suddenly appeared at the airport, attracting countless gazes. She wears light and simple clothes in winter, which always attracts special attention, not to mention Lu Yuang, who is wearing a linen dress standing next to her. The high slit design allows her knees to push up the skirt from time to time, and the light-colored socks are like a skirt. The lower legs are not wrapped in cloth, and the flesh is bare. Returning from the north in the season, dressing like this even in the south makes people worry that they will catch cold easily, but for women, beauty is obviously more important than catching cold. Lu Chang'an, seeing her boyfriend walking towards her boyfriend with familiar steps and a smile, An Nuan raised her hands and fanned her face, then turned to look at her mother next to her. Mom's expression was very calm, and the corners of her mouth were even slightly raised than a normal smile. There was no expectation of seeing her again after a long separation. An Nuan quickly opened her arms and ran towards Lu Chang'an. This guy always walks so slowly and leisurely, so An Nuan had no choice but to run on her own. Compared with the feeling of throwing herself into his arms, it was always more pleasant to get along with others. That little bit of reserve is not important. Lu Chang'an also opened his arms. He opened his arms to the extreme angle of ordinary human beings and raised his chest. He waited for An Nuan to rush over. The two of them seemed to have collided with each other. Then he exhaled, his chest contracted and his hands he closed his arms and hugged An Nuan tightly in his arms. Miss you, An Nuan Jiao was filled with satisfaction, her feet couldn't stop tiptoeing, her cheek pressed against his shoulder, and her nose rubbed against his neck. Not seeing each other for one day is like 3 autumns. Lu Chang'an gently patted her back with one hand, and placed the other hand on her slender waist. This sentence is generally used to describe longing, but if we want to use it to describe changes that have taken place in a short period of time that seem to take a long time, there should be no problem. Lu Chang'an said with satisfaction. Sankaiu can also refer to the 3 seasons. Years, the development time of a girl's puberty is almost 3 years, in short, I think one day is like 3 autumns. This sentence can be used to describe your growth effect in a short period of time. An Nuan then remembered his chest-thumping action just now. Was he using the full collision between objects and the various data fed back to measure her growth? Dirty. You say such slutty words as soon as we meet. An Nuan blushed and let go of Lu Chang'an's neck, shyly happy, because she was looking forward to him discovering her progress early. A man treats a woman, oh, no, my unabashed desire for you is the ultimate compliment. Lu Chang'an said sincerely, please believe this. I pretend to believe it. An Nuan is not a little girl who is easily fooled by sweet words. Unless she finds an opportunity, he behaves like a burning fire. This is what An Nuan summarized from the descriptions of various film, television, art, and literary works. Experience. Just like many men are very kind to their wives, buying clothes and jewelry, and being obedient, but these women all know that the only reliable test standard is still his performance when paying public wages. Everything else is false. An Nuan suddenly felt a little shy and proud. She was already a mature woman, and her temperament and feelings were not on the same level as those of her peers. Of course, when needed, she is still a pure girl like a little white flower. This is not a contradiction. Women are such creatures that can change at any time. Okay, then I will make you cry and shout that I believe it. Lu Chang'an showed a ferocious expression dominated by desire. An Nuan blushed and laughed hee a few times. Although his acting was a bit exaggerated, he still liked it, so he turned his head and looked at Professor Lu. Lu Yuangjin looked at her and Lu Chang'an with a mixture of contempt, disdain, and ridicule. An Nuan analyzed the remaining point calmly and felt that it must be envy. But An Nuan doesn't sympathize with Professor Lu. Professor Lu obviously has a lot of outstanding suitors, such as last year's Ferrari man Takanoneng. She has to use her son-in-law who is the best in the world as the standard. Now she can only envy, 1 point, also looking at it with envy, who can blame me? When she was at the Park Hyatt in Chenbai Mountain, there were many high-quality men who were middle-aged and rich and loved sports, and young and rich men who were passionate about middle-aged women and loved sports. Who made her not want to deal with any of them? An Nuan touched her boyfriend lovingly. He was such a treasure. She had to be determined to die to protect him. Professor Lu Chang'an pulled An Nuan and walked over to greet Lu Yuang. Compared with the first time they met last year, Professor Liu's charm was still the same, but his skin was more delicate and his eyebrows were brightly colored. We have a lot of luggage. Fortunately, you came to pick us up, Lu Yuang said with a sigh of relief. My dad helped push the luggage here, and he didn't care about us. You are already a mature daughter, does grandpa still want to work as a laborer for you? An Nuan shook her head. Professor Lu always felt that she was still a little princess, and someone should help her arrange everything without any worries. Why are you talking? Lu Yuang was angry. An Nuan was stunned for a moment and then realized, labor, labor's labor, worker's labor. An Nuan suspected that Professor Lu really wanted to find a husband. He was mentally sensitive and could hear this. I treat your boyfriend as a laborer, Lu Yuwang commanded Lu Chang'an, and Nuan bought you a lot of ginseng and put them all in that box. I suspect they are all dried radishes and pretended to be. I am in the circle of friends you can see this in exposing scams, and the ginseng sellers in Chenbai Mountain are actually dried radish. There used to be such scams, but now they are rare. Lu Chang'an smiled, and Nuan was so cute, knowing that he was the same as ginseng essence, she still bought him ginseng. And Nuan looked at Lu Yuwang in surprise. She was not sure whether Lu Yuwang was taking advantage of the topic and used the word labor to plot against An Nuan. After all, she knows An Nuan very well. Even if her real pronunciation is labor, it can still make An Nuan suspicious and uncomfortable. If her real pronunciation is husband, An Nuan has no evidence, let alone questions her. After all, An Nuan just accused Lu Yuwang of being misinformed. If An Nuan said that Lu Yuwang said husband, Lu Yuwang could also say in an understatement that An Nuan had misunderstood. An Nuan was extremely confused and felt uncomfortable standing there. What did Professor Lu just say? It's a pity that there is no recording that can be played repeatedly to distinguish. Now I feel peaceful and warm, as if I was reading a pure love story with great relish, and the author suddenly released some ambiguous green hints. At this time, just keep reading. Those sweet dog food contents are boring. Don't look at it, you'll feel uneasy. Even if it is later revealed that it was a misunderstanding or a past relationship, now that I have let it go, I still feel like I have eaten shit, and I no longer have that sweet feeling. The most important thing is that this kind of shit was done by An Nuan himself. Why would he mention the word labor when he has nothing to do? Professor Lu immediately seized the opportunity and caused serious damage to An Nuan. An Nuan realized that she was still too young and Professor Lu was the old ginger. Lu Yuwang was looking at Lu Chang'an carrying 4 suitcases alone, as relaxed as if they were just 4 empty boxes made of paper. He patted Lu Chang'an on the shoulder with appreciation. A man should be strong, and it is best to be able to kill a tiger. That kind of thing. Let's go. Lu Yuwang turned to greet An Nuan, and then found that her daughter, who was usually barely witty, but acted like a fool when it came to things related to her boyfriend, and was full of confusion, was standing there. Myocardial infarction was performed there. The first aid measures in this situation were also very simple. Lu Yuwang hit her hard a few times, and An Nuan came back to her senses. Where's my husband? An Nuan looked around hurriedly. Just now she was thinking about protecting her precious boyfriend with the determination to die, but suddenly she couldn't see him and became a little flustered. Lu Yuwang was taken aback and cursed again, "Are you ashamed to call me your husband?" An Nuan blushed. She had just been thinking about the words husband and laborer and blurted them out without realizing it. But there was nothing to explain. When he saw Lu Chang'an leaving with 4 suitcases, he quickly picked up another suitcase and chased after him, relying on his long legs that were no less than Lu Chang'an's.